This half hour, your handy-dandy guide to next week's mayoral and city council elections in Kansas City. Plus, we take you inside the Raucous Caucus, a new quest to boost the young people's vote. And will a whopping hike in the Kansas sales tax mean a huge windfall for Missouri? Oh wait, is Kansas not raising taxes at all?
Some would have you believe this bill represents a tax increase, and that is not accurate.
Hello, I'm Nick Haynes. Is it just me, or has it really been a long time since we've been together? No matter, I am thrilled you're with us, and at just the right time. Tuesday is Election Day in Kansas City. Pouring through what's on the ballot is Kansas City Star City Hall reporter Lynn Horsley. From the Pitch newspaper, Steve Vockrodt. The senior writer for The Call, Eric Wesson. And Star reporter, columnist and blogger Dave Helling. On Tuesday, Sly James will be asking Kansas City, Missouri voters to give him 4 more years as their mayor. He is running against an ill-funded opponent who has never held elected office before, businessman and consultant Vincent Lee.
I take it for granted. Y'all came out here to look for a change, the way the city should be ran, and to make it a better city. Can we agree on that? Yeah. All right. In order to do that, we have to work together and labor together. Can we agree on that? Yeah. Now, how are we going to run this city? Together. Where everything we do together, it means something to make a city brighter that sits up on the hill.
4 years ago, I came to you and asked you to join with me so that we could work together to get some things done in the city. We have, over those 4 years, been able to accomplish a great deal. Not everything is perfect, but then again, nothing ever is. As a result of our efforts of working together, you have a more efficient government. You have a budget that is tighter. You have financial stability. We changed some things with pension. You have rail coming out of the ground for the first time since the 50s. We have an optimistic attitude. We have young people moving back to the city. We have fun. We had the Royals. I can't take credit for all of that, but what the heck, why not?
Now, while Sly James is flush with close to $1 million in campaign donations, his opponent Vincent Lee has just $500 to his name. But there's more to a political race than money. What else is Vincent Lee doing to convince voters that he deserves the mayor's job? Eric Wesson.
He's putting up yard signs. He's got mailers that he's handing out. They're not mailing them, but he's handing them out. He's got door hangers. He's shaking hands. He's telling people what's going to happen when he's the mayor, but nobody knows about what his platform is and how he plans to get that done.
Is there anything he could say or do between now and Election Day that could push him over the finish line ahead of Sly James on Tuesday? Lynn Horsley.
I seriously doubt it. There's a huge gap. I think Sly is slated to get 80% or more of the vote.
Can you refresh our memories, Dave Helling, as to why it is that there wasn't a more serious challenger to Sly James again in this election season?
Well, first of all, he had $1 million. That's a high hurdle for a lot of candidates, would-be challengers, to overcome. And there are term limits in Kansas City now, so if you have an interest in being mayor, rather than face an incumbent, which is very difficult typically, you can just wait 4 years. And we've seen that in Kansas City. Dan Coffran, who was a very well-qualified candidate, tried to take on Emanuel Cleaver at the end of Cleaver's first term. Didn't work. It's a very hard thing to do. Now, you know, Mark Funkhauser proves the exception to that rule. So it isn't impossible to challenge an incumbent mayor, but it's difficult. And I think the people who want to be mayor decided just to wait for
Some people are saying, why has the mayor got a war chest of $1 million? Who is giving him that money if he has got such a weak opponent? And what's the purpose of them giving him that money at this point in time, Steve Vockrodt?
Well, you know, the people giving him money are a lot of the usual suspects. There's a lot of lawyers, a lot of civic leaders who work for large companies that frequently have business before the city. Companies like J.E. Dunn are contributing a lot of money. And they're the types of companies and concerns and people that have always contributed to races. And in this instance, there's really nobody else that they really want to give to.
And just to be clear, money is important, but it isn't the determining factor. If Vincent Lee were running and Sly James had $100,000, Vincent Lee would still be the overwhelming underdog in that race because of the kind of candidate he is. So, you know, while finances play some role, Nick, it's not the determinant here.
Well, and Sly has been a prodigious fundraiser since he got elected the first time. So he raised a lot of that money before anybody knew who his opponent was going to be or if he was going to have a credible opponent. And I do think Dan Coffrin considered running against him and then realized just the fundraising that he would have to do was out of he just couldn't do it.
But ultimately, Mayor Sly James is just one vote on a city council of 13 voices, and all of the other members of that city council are up for grabs on election day too on Tuesday. So what's at stake in this election with the members of the city council, Lynn?
Well, they're going to make some very important decisions in this next 4 years. They'll probably decide how to modernize KCI, figure out what to do about Kemper Arena, the streetcar. They're going to continue to try to figure out how to grow this city in jobs and population and improve our infrastructure, because those are huge challenges that have never been solved.
Well, because there are so many different races, it's hard to do justice to every one of them. So let's try and cut to the chase here. A fill-in-the-blank question for you all. The race to watch on election night is blank. Eric Wesson.
Jim Glover and Catherine Shields.
Okay, well, let's take a look at that race then. Talk about that race. Why are we interested in that race, and why is that of interest to you?
Well, in the interest to our readership, it would be other races. It would be 2 other races, but because that race is so close, you've got Jim Glover, who
he's the current city councilman.
He's the incumbent. He talks about the Glover plan. He reminds people about the stores that he built there and the employment there. But I think that Catherine has gained some momentum. He squeaked by her in the primary. The deciding factor is going to be the Northland and how they come out to vote.
That's interesting, because this is called the 4th district, but it's at large. And when you see an at large at the end of the title, that means everybody in the city votes for them. Isn't that correct? Yeah. Okay. But Catherine Shields, though, was the Jackson County executive, and that came with some baggage when she was in that role.
There were questions about some of the spending that she did, and you know, she ran for mayor when she was under indictment, and she ultimately was acquitted. That was kind of a bogus charge involving a purchase of a home. But you know, Catherine correctly claims that she helped oversee the rebuilding of the stadiums. That's sort of her claim to fame. And Jim Glover claims this Midtown Costco and Home Depot big development for Midtown. But
some people have charged, though, other than that, what has he done on the city council?
Well, and that's kind of a good question.
Can anybody else give us a retort to that, a response? What Jim Glover has done beyond, say, the Costco project?
He was one of the first people out with Jermaine about the plaza and the youth going in. He was one of the spearheads or front runners with the minimum wage as well.
Very good. Steve Bockrot, if we're looking at a race on election night that you think is going to be the most intriguing, which one is that for you?
For me, I'm looking at the Dick Davis, Heather Hall race. That's the 1st district race. 1st district is mostly
which is really in the Northland.
Northland, yes. Clay County side of the Northland. So Heather Hall is, you know, she's a fairly conservative activist. She's sort of had evolving positions on the earnings tax. You got Dick Davis he's the incumbent. He's been sort of a staunch transportation supporter. And you know, Heather Hall's, she had a pretty sizable lead over him in the primary. There were a couple other candidates too. So you know, who picks up those votes will be a big question. But I know that that's a race that'll be close, and one that people in City Hall will be watching very closely.
Dave Helling.
I'm keeping an eye on the other 4th district race, which is John Fierro and Jolie Justice, in part, Nick, because the race for mayor in 2020 begins the day after this next Tuesday's election, and Jolie Justice is one of the candidates.
Now, she's a former state senator.
Former state senator, politically talented and active. Now, let's just be clear, John Fierro is extraordinarily well known in this community, worked on the Parks Board for a time. He might have a better chance had he run at large, in part because he has some support in the Latino community around Kansas City. But Jolie Justice, Quentin Lucas, we're also watching that race. Those are the people who are most likely to contemplate running in 4 years for mayor of Kansas City, and we'll want to keep an eye on those races for that reason.
Is there any race we've left out that we should be looking at, Lynn?
Well, in the 2nd district at large, which is these candidates are from Platte County, but they're running at large. That's Teresa Lohr, who's a former city councilwoman, and Jay Hodges, who worked for Sly James in his administration.
Why is that interesting?
Well, I think the feeling is that Jay would be a reliable vote with the mayor, and Teresa might be a more independent voice. She won the primary pretty easily. You know, a lot of people are saying there may not be very many women on this council. So Teresa and Jolie may be the two women on the council.
And I think another race to watch too is going to be the 5th district in-district race. Ken Backus, Alicia Kennedy. That's going to be an interesting race on who's going to be able to get their base out. Is there going to be an anti-freedom vote or anybody but Ken or but freedom vote? And in that district, it's new boundaries. So there's some new people that are coming from the 6th district into the 5th and how they're going to vote. That's going to be a very, very close race as well.
I'm struck, Nick, by the idea that the council could have a lot of veterans who were on the council, got away from it, and have come back. Teresa Laura would be an example of that, Ken Backus, Catherine Shields. The good news is that if they are elected, they would have some experience and sort of know some things that it takes rookies a little while to learn. The bad news is they may be more interested in playing politics on the council than actually accomplishing things. And that could be actually a bad thing. I think that one of the things about term limits that you like is the new blood that it brings in, and so we'll see how voters decide.
Well, what is the biggest challenge facing the council?
I would say trying to get this city growing in terms of population and jobs. There's a perception that we've got the momentum. I mean, with the Power and Light District, the Royals, the Chiefs are doing okay. But when you compare us to other regions, we're falling behind, both in terms of population growth and jobs.
And one of the other things, in addition to that, is what to do about the vacant and abandoned properties in the city, and that's a big issue. But as Dave was saying earlier, we'll have the old heads on there again, but when they did things, there was different. There was federal money available, there was a different mindset. So now, if they get on, how will they react and interact with the other council members in getting things done? So I think there's going to be a difference in a mindset from the way it was in the 90s and the early 2000s to the way it is today.
I tried to write a little bit of a column this week, Nick, that talked about what Lynn talked about, which is jobs and growth. We tend in this city, and have for years, to say, okay, the next step is a hotel, or it's an arena, or it's a streetcar, or it's Bartle Hall, or the Truman Sports Complex. But the fundamental building block of any community is a vibrant private sector, job growth, 21st century approaches, and I think Kansas City's challenge is to try and find that, and that's really what the next mayor and council should spend some time on, in my view.
The turnout of young people in recent Kansas City municipal elections has been pathetic. In city elections in April of last year, more people over age 90 voted than those under 30. This past weekend, Live KC and The Pitch, and KCPT for that matter, joined in an effort to boost that young turnout at an event called Raucous Caucus.
I'm Kayla. Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. Hi, ladies. I'm running for 2nd District at large.
Why do you want our votes? What should we...
You're the future of this city.
What'd you just write, Dave? If you don't vote, you can't bitch.
Well, people call my office and say, I had a water leak in front of my house for a week. When's the city going to fix it? It'll be my job to call it in and say, why hasn't this been fixed? Try to chase it down.
You're not voting? What you mean you're not voting, man? What about you? You voting?
I'm voting Burlington, Kansas.
Man, anybody Kansas City voters?
Where were the millennials? Hold on. This is why I didn't make a video, because I said, well, they never want to show up to meetings. If we did a video, they would watch. There you go. That's the problem, is they guys don't show up.
If at a minimum we get just a few more voters to the polling place on June 23rd, I think that'd be fantastic.
It's amazing the statistic that came out that people over the age of 90 are far more likely to vote than people under the age of 30.
Yeah, it's disgusting, right? I mean, in fact, I think I heard somebody even make the comment today that, the likelihood that those people are going to benefit from the policies we make decisions on the next 4 years is extremely low compared to somebody in their 30s.
I wrote that if I can vote from home, more people my age would vote.
Every decision that I make came with an even chance of mistake, and that's alright, 'cause I made it through the sea.
Okay, most of the candidates for city council and the mayor showed up. Did the millennials, Steve Ockrott?
not in great numbers. I was hoping for a few more folks to show up. I mean, you know, you see those crowd shots. There were people kind of funneling in, funneling out for the couple of hours that the event was going on. But, you know, it's a real challenge to try to get millennials interested in city politics and city governance. And I think, you know, I was having a discussion with a couple of council members when I was there, and part of the issue is I think a lot of times young people don't really understand what the role of city government is, or county government for that matter. When you're in education, you know, secondary and college education, you learn a lot about, you know, federal civics and, you know, how bills get passed in Congress. And there's a lot of drama about federal politics, which is sort of, you know, easier to understand in many ways. And it isn't really until you, you know, you start getting out in the real world for a lot of years that you start to really see and understand how city government is closer to your life than what's going on in the White House and Congress.
Now, Lynn, you were also there, and I have to say, I had never been to an event where there were so many candidates who were so openly keen to be talking with individuals, yet there weren't, as I said, that many millennials there, but they were really thirsting to have that interaction. You don't get that opportunity very often.
No, you don't, and especially in this election, since we haven't had a really vigorous mayor's race, there haven't been a lot of forums or debates that people could go to. You know, the theory that I've heard is that millennials would vote if they could vote online, if they could go vote from their phone. And that's just not possible right now. Maybe election boards need to get with the 21st century, and we do need to modernize our voting technology.
I think more of them would vote if there was more people in their age range that were a part of the process.
So don't you think this election, though, has that more than we've seen in the past?
Two.
Okay.
Well, Jared Campbell ran. He ran in the primary in the 4th District at large and was very energetic and really got out there. He didn't poll very well. He thought he could capitalize on the millennial vote.
Steve.
Well, and Campbell, I'm glad you brought that up because Campbell's a good example. He was he campaigned very well on things like social media and really got the word around if you were paying attention to things like Facebook and Twitter and such. But the people who vote in elections aren't really on Twitter that much. They're not on Facebook that much. And so, you know, I think that that hampered Jared Campbell's campaign a little bit.
Two things. I sound like a broken record on this, but when you go to the polls next Tuesday in
What's
Kansas
a record,
City,
first of all?
Right.
Because our audience,
like
we're mainly appealing to the female 18 to 30 audience on this, so I have to make sure that's clear to people.
Records used to be big to put on a turntable. First of all, voters next Tuesday have 8 choices to make. 8. The mayor, 6 at large, and 1 in-district decision. If you're not focused on the decisions you have to make, sometimes you'll go to the polls and feel a little stupid. I don't know anything about these people. Nobody wants to vote for folks they don't know anything about. So I think the format in Kansas City may hurt turnout a little bit. And then I did write a column on this. There's all kinds of studies that suggest that voting is essentially an irrational act anyway, because one vote usually doesn't make a difference one way or another, and so the rational thing to do is to not vote at all. And so you have to have some sort of emotional connection to your community, to the candidates, to the campaigns, to the issues. When you don't have that, turnout drops.
How would the city be, do you think, if we did have the same type of turnout among individuals under the age of 30 voting in the same numbers as people who are 50 and older?
I think the streetcar extensions would have passed. We might be farther along in planning for a new KCI.
We might have had a gondola, though, that Clay Chastain would have approved.
Well, possibly.
Okay.
But, you know, I do think
we'd
that
have a better school district, and that's for sure.
If people were more engaged in the school district, yeah, that's a great point. But, you know, I think the millennials are looking toward the far future, and a lot of us old farts are trying to protect our taxes and our turf.
We should be clear, though, Nick, there is a generational change in Kansas City that we are on the cusp of. The Cleavers, even the Sly James, Teresa Lohr, Catherine Shields, win or lose, the Dave Hellings. That generation is moving on.
The torch is passing.
And the torch is passing to a younger group. And they will make this city what they will of it, and it'll be fascinating to watch. And ultimately, the millennials who are not connected may become more connected.
At the Raucous Caucus event was this startup 1-minute candidate. They're trying to get more young people involved about who's running, because they don't expect everybody to be there. So they're taping 1-minute videos of every candidate running in this upcoming election.
Hi, I am Quentin Lucas, a candidate for the 3rd District at Large in Kansas City, Missouri. Hi, I'm Heather Hall, and I'm standing up for the Northland.
Our city leaders seem to feel that there's only one solution for every problem. Whether it's KCI or Kemper, the solution's the wrecking ball.
I embrace the diversity that exists in our city of all ages, ethnicities, languages, gender, and sexual orientation.
Okay, that's a short snapshot of the videos. You can check them all out at oneminutecandidate.co. As we move on our week in review, plans for a new 800-room downtown convention hotel were recently announced with great fanfare, you may remember. We were even told the project was on the fast track heading through the city council. But could you be a roadblock to those plans? The group Citizens for Responsible Government announcing this week it's launching a petition drive to force a public vote on any final agreement to develop, finance, or construct a downtown convention center hotel.
We don't like the way it's going, and we think that being the case, that perhaps the voters should be able to get involved in this thing and have a say.
Well, that's the head of Citizens for Responsible Government, Dan Coffey, appearing on KCPT's Ruckus program this week. He says you can plan to see the group collecting signatures outside polling stations on Tuesday. But can they force the city to put this hotel to a public vote, Lynn?
If they get enough signatures, and oddly, the number of signatures required is tied to the voter turnout for the mayor. Right. So if we have very few people vote for mayor, it will reduce the threshold of signatures that these petition drives will need. So
this is a knock-on effect then, Dave, to low participation in elections.
Well, the people at City Hall around Sly James are panicked about this, this threshold idea that if you get 25,000 people voting for mayor, it'll take about 1,250 signatures, valid signatures, to have initiative petitions approved for vote. That is not a high bar.
We'll have Clay Chastain on steroids.
Right, and so anytime you're upset with anything, and by the way, one of the things that's in the charter in Kansas City is you can force a referendum on a past ordinance. But everyone's figured out now all you need to do is initiate an ordinance that would repeal another. So the 5% threshold is applicable to anything the council does, and you could have government by referendum for the next 4 years. They're very, very afraid of that down at City Hall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if people are asking, well, Sly James is running against a guy that nobody really knows and has much chance, and he spent most of the $1 million that he's raised. And I'm told that part of the reason for that is he's trying to get higher turnout for just that very reason. You know, like Dave said, 1,200, 1,500 signatures is pretty easy to get. 3,500 signatures, which is about where it's at right now, that takes some work.
But just because they get the petition signed doesn't mean it goes on the ballot. We've seen that several times where they've kind of put the brakes on things and came up with alternatives.
Right, well, I think that's true.
It's not a guarantee.
Absolutely true. On the other hand, if you get a referendum petition on the hotel, which is what we started this discussion with, it can certainly gum up the works for weeks, months, as that's fought out in the courts or whatever, and the people behind the hotel particularly are not anxious about that.
Yeah, they've said that this time is of the essence. They really want to get going while interest rates are low. And this also might put a chilling effect on private investors.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, the private part of this deal is really kind of the big hurdle. I mean, I think the city's probably going to pass its, assistance for this project. But to get private investors without city backing on this project, that's going to be a major challenge. And if headlines pop up about citizens not wanting this hotel in any form because of this petition, that makes the job even trickier.
It's been called the largest tax increase in Kansas history. The state sales tax hiked from 6.15% to 6.5%. Smokers hit with a 50-cent tax hike on every pack of cigarettes. But Governor Brownback, signing an exhaustively fought budget bill this week, is insistent this is not a tax increase.
Now, some would have you believe this bill represents a tax increase, and that is not accurate. When looked at in totality, from 2012 to 2015, as I stated at the outset, Kansans are paying less in taxes. 388,000 low-income Kansans will pay no income tax after the signing of this bill. 388,000. None.
Alrighty, Dave, so is this a tax increase or is it not?
Not a single thing that Sam Brownback just said is true. Not a single thing. The 388,000 figure is wrong. The not a tax increase, wrong. everything he said in there is absolutely inaccurate, and he continues to say it because I think he thinks the people of Kansas are too stupid to know what actually just happened.
But he's talking about it in the broad sense, though, of his entire administration, isn't he? The whole basket of taxes, that if you look at the whole taxes that have been cut over the years, that really, if you look at it on balance, there are lower taxes in Kansas today than there were when he started, Steve.
Yeah, I don't see how that adds up. When I see that clip, I see Rod Serling, and I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. So if you're going to raise taxes, the sales tax, that affects everybody in Kansas, not just 388,000 or the number that he cited. That affects everybody. That affects people outside of the state. That affects people traveling through the state. It is a tax increase. There's no two ways about it.
Okay, well, let's take a look at how the Kansas sales tax rate now compares with Missouri. It's now more than 2.25% higher than Missouri. But as a result of this session in Kansas, the Tax Foundation now ranks the combined state-local sales tax rate in Kansas higher than New York and California. Now, does this represent a win for Missouri? Will Kansans be flooding over to Kansas City, Missouri, Lynn, to buy their cigarettes and to make purchases for cars and other big-ticket items that would be a lot cheaper there? I mean, is there a feeling over there that they're going to get a windfall there for city government?
Well, I don't think they're counting on a windfall. You know, there's still this big border war, and I think Kansas still has some ammunition to lure more businesses over to Kansas. But, you know, if you live near the state line, for sure you're going to shop in Missouri. And if you are going to buy a car, you may very well go to
but not just
Missouri.
cars. Here's what's very important, and that's the tax on food, groceries. In Missouri, it's 0.1225 per dollar. In Kansas now it's 6.5 per dollar. That's a nickel plus difference over the course of a year. That's several $100s. All you have to do is cross state line. Kansas has no conception of what's going to hit them.
But the governor said in his speech, if you earn about $36,000 a year, it's about $50 a year. Would you even notice?
$50 an increase.
Would you even notice that?
But $50 increase, Nick. But it's the total of the tax.
Okay.
It's not just the increase.
Steve, quickly.
There's incrementalism. So if 50 is just what the state's doing, Johnson County is going to have to increase its property tax. That's more money. It adds up.
Alrighty, that is our Week in Review. Our thanks to our news reviewers, Lynn and Eric. Thank you so much. Steve and Dave, we appreciate you being with us. I'm Nick Haynes. From all of us here at KCPT, thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.